For years on this channel, we have been searching for the best, the highest quality, the most versatile graffiti mops on the market in all of our graffiti reviews and surface tagging tests. And now On the Run has just released a newly improved graffiti mop that I believe is the best in class for one particular reason. Look at how squeezable this is. The Soultip 003 Squeeze Marker is frankly more like a sack full of paint with a nib on it than a graffiti mop. Like, the plastic on it almost feels more like a rubber than an actual polyplastic, and you can tell how much more squeezable it is by the sort of thud sound of the mixing ball inside it on the sides, rather than that sort of rattling sound that you get with most graffiti mops, you know what I mean? You can hear the difference, right? So today we're going to be doing a full surface tagging test and tagging some subscribers' names up who have asked me for hit-offs to fully test the supreme squeezability and control that I'm hoping you can get with this Soultip 003 Squeeze Marker. But before we head over to our surface testing area, don't worry, I'm going to give you the most important info that the graffiti writer is going to want to know about this OTR 003 Soultip Squeeze Marker. So let's get to it. Now, the OTR 003 Soultip in its pre-filled form was newly released less than a month ago as far as I am aware, and comes pre-filled with one of 10 different colors that you can get in the Soultip paint here. The mop itself holds 90 milliliters of paint, so you know it packs a serious punch, and it has this beautiful 18 millimeter nib. The 18 millimeter nibs are actually really nice. They're like a very nice in-between size that you can use. The OTR mops at least seem to always have this sort of longer hair on the nibs. That's a feature of OTR that I could sort of take it or leave it, but it definitely does come entirely down to personal preference for that particular feature. The cap is nice and solid, and it screws on perfectly fine, nice and tight. You can buy these pre-filled versions for about $8 US, which isn't bad considering that it does come with 90 milliliters of that Soultip paint, and it's not bad considering the usual quality of OTR mops in general. You can get these empty at about $4 US a piece, but I'm not sure if the empty ones come with this new updated super squeezable body design. But I am super upset, and I will tell you why. I can only squeeze this so much when the cap is on and we're not actually writing on something. So let's get over to our surface testing area where I can actually test this out and we can see how this baby performs. I'll see you guys over there. Okay, welcome to our testing area, everyone, and if this is your first time joining us where all the magic happens, an extra welcome to you. If you find the video helpful, informative, maybe consider liking, subscribing, and you'll see a few more of my videos on your homepage. So we're going to get started with a tagging test, tagging some subscribers' names up with this OTR Soultip 003. First on a smooth painted surface right behind me here, and then after that, just for some good old-fashioned fun, we'll see what it can do on glass. And while I'm tagging up some subscriber names with this mop, I want to keep three things in particular in mind, and they're going to be what I'm commenting on most prominently. Number one, the squeezability and controllability of this mop. I'm really excited to see how this mop feels to write with, given how nice and squeezable it actually is. Number two, the nib durability. That's especially important with these sort of bigger nibs that have a larger surface area that can get caught or snagged on any part of the surface, so you do want them to be durable. This one's a mohair nib. Mohair ones are a little bit nicer usually than just the standard cotton nibs, so I don't anticipate any problems with that, but that's something we definitely want to keep an eye on. And number three, I'll talk about the OTR Soultip paint that this particular mop comes filled with, including the opacity of the paint, the viscosity of the paint, as well as if this paint in particular is a good fit for a mop that is this squeezable. And at the end, I'll be talking about some of the best paints and maybe even inks that you could and should be using with this 003 Soultip for the most fun. So keeping those three things in mind, let's get rolling. All right, so just to give you a bit of context, I'm gonna show you guys a line just with a Crinkcase 60 because it has a very standard 1 centimeter nib, 10 millimeters instead of the 18, and that way you can sort of see the difference in terms of line thickness. So you can get just nice normal thick lines with the K60 or any mop that has that normal sized nib. And now let's see what we are gonna get initially with these lines. I'm so excited to juice this nib up. Oh, yes. Yeah, look at this. From the very first line, I know this is gonna be a fun mop. Oh, beauty. This is gonna be a lot of fun, guys. Shout out to Weok in Melbourne. Can't wait to get back to Melbourne one day. I have lots of respect for all the writers up in Melbourne. They have a great scene up there. One thing I have to mention that you're getting right away is look at this. This really is a sack of paint, and I absolutely love that so far. Let's get more tags. Also, something I should mention is on all my reviews, I link the products in the description if you do want to pick them up for yourself. And I try to keep these reviews as unbiased as I possibly can each and every time. I'm gonna give you a shot of just how squeezable this mop is. Like, did I not tell you it is the most squeezable mop? It's the most squeezable one I've ever used. I really love this design. I don't know what they're doing exactly with it, but this is tremendous. And you can tell just how squeezable it is because it's collapsing under the pressure of less paint being in there, and it's not able to fill up with air, and the actual polyplastic is thin enough that it collapses a little bit. That's not like a bad thing or anything. That's actually quite the opposite. It's a good thing. You feel like you have incredible control over your tags, and specifically the drippability you want to inject into your tags because of how squeezable it is and that squeezability. As you can see, I did a few tags here with minimal dripping and also some with a little more dripping. Because it is a drip mop, you're gonna get drips even if you're trying to save your paint like I usually do and not do too many of them. I should also say the nib, as of right now, it's holding up perfectly fine. Haven't tried it on anything too rough. A couple rough patches on this smooth sort of painted surface. There's a couple rough patches, but it's handling that just fine. You can see there, the nib looks just gorgeous and juicy. And it's been a while since I've used this 18 mil size, and I forgot how much fun these 18 mil nibs are. This is actually a great size to work with. I really love it. The only downside is it's big enough that you'll have a hard time writing on a few small surfaces, but hey, bigger surfaces are usually funner than the small ones. As far as the Soultip paint, red is a staple color. That's why I usually try and get whatever products I'm reviewing in red, as well as a few other colors. But this red, it's a nice vibrant red with the Soultip paint. It produces the drips in the nice sort of spots you want them at the end of the letters. There's no weird runniness with this kind of formula, so that's always a plus. It's a well put together formula, and it'll be as permanent as the next permanent paint, really. There is a bit of sort of separation that I'm noticing in a few of the lines here, which looks a little strange, but it's not really something too worrying because they are maintaining that opacity quite well. But guys, I am not fully satisfied yet. Let's really try and put the squeeze on this OTR 003 Soultip Squeeze Marker. That's what it's for, and get some real juicy drippy tags just to see what that does to the opacity. But before we test on glass and then talk about some other possible paints and inks you could use in this beautiful mop, let's get to it. Yeah, it's funny, on my note here I have talk about the limits of how much drippage you can get. There really is no limit as far as I'm concerned. Like, with this brain damage tag, it was done on a bit of a rougher part of this smooth painted surface, so a bit more got absorbed by the surface. But even with that kind of surface, you can see I was able to really squeeze, and you get some beautiful looking drips. I'm really enjoying this. But without further ado, let's throw a tag on glass just for fun, and then we'll talk about what kind of paints you should be using in this. All right, so we're just gonna throw one tag on here. It's a little bit of a small space for such a big nib here. Let's give Wesker a shout out from the MSN crew. Do you guys remember MSN? I do. I was in like grade school when MSN was a thing. Everyone's like, I'll chat to you on MSN tonight. I'm like, no you won't, I don't have MSN. So of course this is writing absolutely beautifully on glass. It really is the ideal surface. The debate over whether the metal or the glass is nicer to write on, I think I did a poll on my channel and most people chose metal, but as you can see, just beautiful here. So what paints and inks might be good to try in this supremely squeezable graffiti mop? In short, it depends on your preference. And just wait before you say that's a bit of a cop-out answer. Let me personalize the suggestion for you. If you're like me and you like the sort of thicker, almost three-dimensional look of some tags you can get with some thicker paint formulae, then the Soultip paint is a good buy, as well as other paints such as like the Grog Full Metal paint. Link in the description to some Grog Full Metal as well. I know you guys are like, oh, he almost got through a full video without mentioning Grog. Almost. But no, the Soultip paint's a little more runny than, say, the Grog Full Metal paint. It's sort of a nice middle ground. The mop doesn't really need much thicker than either of those. I don't think it would flow through the nib very well, at least with something like a rough stuff paint or anything thicker than that. The Soultip paint and the Grog paint both have a ton of different colors in their color line, so they're really good that way as well. Frankly, I don't have precise enough knowledge in the area of Montana paints to feel like I would be giving out accurate information about them, so I will leave that topic to someone more knowledgeable in that area in the comments. I'd rather say that than give out some incorrect information to you guys. The second question, inks? Personally, nah, I wouldn't do inks in here, but they would work, just you wouldn't have to squeeze at all. And being that this is one of the most supremely squeezable things I have ever seen, I know there are others out there like it, but this is just, it's really well put together. But being that it is that level of squeezable, it would almost feel like a waste if you're using an ink where you don't really need to squeeze them off very much. If you have used this OTR Soultip 003 squeeze marker, or you notice anything about it, feel free to drop that in the comments. Start a conversation. The knowledge we can share together as a community is more than I could communicate or any one person could communicate in a video like this, so spread the love in the comments. If you want to see how this mop compares to other graffiti mops specifically, you might want to check out my playlist, which is solely graffiti mop reviews that I just made for everyone. And hey, check out some other reviews and other series on the channel here. We have over 300 graffiti related videos. I hope I'll see you in one of those videos in a little bit. Until then, peace.